Hi and welcome to the CITAM Church Online Youth Cafe. My name is Patrick Kuchio, the head of missions at Christ is the Answer Ministries based right here in Nairobi, Kenya. The questions God asks. Now, it is common for human beings to ask God questions like, where were you? Why did you allow this to happen to me? Where are you? But it is interesting to note that God asks questions of human beings as well. Actually, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, there are several questions that God asks of people. For instance, God asked the first question to Adam, and the question was this: Adam, where are you? Now, it was not a geographical question. God does not ask questions because He doesn't have answers to the questions He's asking. God normally asks questions of us because He wants us to think, to repent, and to return to Him. So God asks various questions, but it's also very interesting to note that God's answers are normally in the questions He asks. It is true. God's answers are normally in the questions He asks. Now, let's look at some of the questions that Jesus asked. And for the next few episodes, I just want to tackle some key questions that Jesus Christ asked. The questions that God asks. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus Christ asked the disciples a very interesting question. The question was this: who do people say I am? Who do people say I am? The disciples answered Him. Some say you are John the Baptist. Some say you are Elijah. Some say, and still others say, you are Jeremiah, and others, one of the prophets. Very interesting. Then He zoomed the camera onto the disciples and asked them, how about you? Who do you say I am? I can imagine the thoughts that were running through the minds of the disciples. I can imagine some of the discomforts that they felt. You see, Jesus used questions as an aid to teach. He would be teaching and He would ask questions. He asked questions to demonstrate that He understood and knew what was going through our minds. So they must have been taken aback by this question: who do you say that I am? Thank God for Peter. Peter answered, you are the Messiah, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus responds and says, well, Peter, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. You have answered correctly. Now, when you read the Gospels, Jesus Christ asked a total number of 173 questions. That's right, 173 questions. You read from the book of Matthew, He asked 31 questions. From the book of Mark, He asked 32 questions. When you go to the book of Luke, He asked 68 questions. When you go to the book of John, He asked 42 questions. Now, all these questions were not just asked for the sake of it. So He asked the disciples, who do you say that I am? Now, these questions that Jesus asks are relevant today. And the question of Christ's identity is a question that is relevant to every young person. Is a question that is relevant to every one of us. Who do you say Jesus is? Is he just another prophet? Is he one of the ways to the Father? Is he just another miracle worker? Is he just another teacher? Is he just another magician who can work and wow the crowds? Who is Jesus? And this is a question that I ask you. Who do you say Jesus is? For some of us, he is just a good historical figure. For some of us, he was a great teacher. For some of us, he was a caring person who didn't judge. Please ask yourself this question, because the answer to this question is very defining. Defining in the sense that it could determine where you spend the rest of your eternity. Who is Jesus? If your answer is that he is a son of the living God, that he is the way, the truth, and the life, if your answer is that no man can come to the Father except by this man Jesus, there lies your eternity. But if you brush him off as just another teacher, just another miracle worker, just another Jew who came through Palestine and was crucified, that might also cost your eternity. So by way of application, let me bring this message home. God might be asking you several questions as a young person. Therein lies his answers, because some of the questions that God may be asking you are very direct, rhetorical questions. Questions that don't even need an answer, because the answer lies in the question that God is asking you. I can hear God asking some young people today, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? He probably is asking you, young person, who is running after fame and fortune at all costs. Some of you who are running after fame and fortune, not caring what process or steps you take along the way, and you are determined to make it big at all costs, even at the very cost of your own soul. God would ask you, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? What question is God asking you? Maybe God is asking you, young person, is anything too difficult for me? That's a rhetorical question. God is simply saying, nothing is difficult for him. What question are you wrestling with? Not asking God, but what question has God asked you, or is God asking you this day? Is God asking you, where will you spend your eternity? Is God asking you, will you trust me? I am sure God is asking you a couple of questions, or he has been asking you a couple of questions. You see, your response to God's question is important. You cannot fail to respond to his question, because failing to respond to his question is responding. My prayer is that you will respond, and respond appropriately this day. Who do you say I am? Jesus is asking. I pray that you will respond to this big question like Peter did. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. God asked me that question many years ago. Patrick, who do you say that I am? He asked me in a very unique way, by way of a conviction. I was at a meeting. My father had called us for prayer because we were going through a family crisis. And while at this meeting, preacher got up to speak, and while he was speaking, a voice spoke in my ear. The voice said to me, "This is your day or never." I responded to that voice. God was asking me a question of identity. Who do you say that I am? Because you see, at that point in time, we needed God to come through for us as a family and heal my brother. And he did when we called on him. The questions God asks Let's keep this conversation going on our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. Please follow us on our Facebook pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like us, because we have life-changing messages and truths that we'd like to share with you. Please let me know whether there's a question that God has asked of you and how you are responding to the same. The Lord bless you richly. Once again, my name is Patrick Kuchio, the head of missions of Christ is the Answer Ministries. The questions that God asks are important for us to respond to, because therein lie His answers. The Lord bless you.